The rhythmic thrum of the Athena's med bay, a low, persistent hum that vibrated through the metal floor and into my very bones, was the first sensation to pierce the fog of unconsciousness. My eyes, heavy-lidded and still swimming in a sea of pain, slowly flickered open. The harsh glare of the fluorescent lighting assaulted my vision, but even through the blurry haze, one image cut through the disorientation with stark clarity: his face. It was a face etched with the harsh realities of countless battles, a weathered landscape of scars and shadowed lines that spoke of hardship and resilience, yet somehow, paradoxically, it exuded a profound warmth, a gentle kindness that seemed utterly at odds with the brutal world he clearly inhabited. His eyes, a captivating, intense blue, held a depth of compassion I had never witnessed in any species, not in the stoic, pragmatic Deloni, not in the calculating, ambitious Velian, nor in any of the myriad other races that populated the vast, swirling tapestry of the galaxy. This human, this soldier, Lieutenant Connor Jensen, would irrevocably alter the trajectory of my life, weaving himself into the very fabric of my being in ways that remain, even now, both wondrous and deeply mysterious. But to truly understand the immensity of that change, I must begin at the beginning. My name is Ephira, and at the time of the Krill attack, I was a scout for the Deloni Defense Forces, stationed on the remote, desolate mining outpost of Pyros 5. Our mission, in theory, was straightforward: protect the valuable mineral deposits from the incessant raids of rival factions and the ubiquitous threat of interstellar piracy. The reality, however, was far less glamorous. For a young soldier fresh from the academy, Pyros 5 was an arid expanse of dust and despair, a monotonous purgatory of endless patrols and tedious drills, a place so remote and unremarkable that it barely registered a blip on the vast, sprawling galactic map. It was, in every conceivable way, the epitome of a forgotten corner of the universe. That is, until the arrival of the Krill. The Krill. The very word conjures images of nightmare-given horrifying, chitinous life. They were a vicious insectoid species, their bodies an unsettling fusion of sharp angles and disturbingly organic curves, their movements both unnervingly precise and brutally efficient. Their very presence radiated an aura of cold, unflinching malevolence, an aura that chilled the soul and curdled the blood. Their attack, when it came, was swift, relentless, overwhelming. It was a maelstrom of chittering mandibles and razor-sharp claws, a tidal wave of chitinous horror that swept aside our meager defenses with chilling ease. The outpost, once a symbol of the Deloni's tenacious hold on this distant resource, became a charnel house within hours, a grim testament to the utter savagery of the Krill. The memories, even now, years later, haunt me: the piercing screams, the metallic shriek of tearing armor, the sickening crunch of bone beneath the relentless assault of those implacable claws. I recall the faces of my squad mates, my friends, my brothers and sisters in arms, their lives extinguished with a brutality that was both horrifying and deeply personal. Frozen in a vice of primal terror, I can still feel the icy grip of fear constricting my chest, stealing my breath, turning my limbs to lead. I remember the frantic scramble for cover, the desperate dash behind a large piece of mining equipment, its heavy metal offering only the most meager of protection against the relentless barrage. My hands, trembling uncontrollably, fumbled with my rifle, the weapon feeling absurdly small and inadequate in the face of such overwhelming odds. I fired wildly, my shots desperate pleas against the encroaching darkness, each bullet seemingly only inflaming the Krill's ferocious rage. It was hopeless. Hopeless from the start. Their numbers were simply too vast, a relentless, unstoppable tide of chitinous horror, and I was a lone, terrified soldier, facing an agonizing, undoubtedly gruesome end. Then, the searing pain. A talon, wickedly sharp, tore through my abdomen, a searing agony that ripped through me, leaving a trail of bright green blood painting the dusty ground. I collapsed, my vision blurring, my body growing heavy, the world receding into a dull, throbbing gray. As consciousness ebbed away, I caught a fleeting glimpse of strange, unfamiliar ships descending from the heavens, fire raining down on the Krill, a fiery salvation descending from the sky. And then, oblivion. I expected to be just another nameless casualty, another forgotten life lost to the brutal indifference of the galaxy, another number added to the ever-growing toll of interstellar conflict. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. I awoke with a gasp, a sharp, involuntary intake of breath that sent a fresh wave of pain through my injured body. My hand instinctively shot out to touch my wound, but instead of the raw, gaping flesh I expected, I encountered the smooth, cool texture of alien bandages, strange white dressings neatly covering the gaping tear in my side. Blinking against the harsh glare of the overhead lights, my eyes slowly adjusted, struggling to focus on my new surroundings. Gray metal walls, the rhythmic beeping of sophisticated machinery, the hypnotic flashing of diagnostic lights. And then, him. He was leaning over me, his face etched with concern, his intense blue eyes radiating a calm, almost ethereal gentleness that belied his imposing physical presence. "Easy," he said, his voice a low, resonant rumble that somehow managed to soothe the frayed edges of my shattered nerves. "You're safe now. I'm Lieutenant Jensen, but you can call me Connor. You're on the UTS Athena." I tried to speak, to ask questions, to comprehend the surreal reality of my situation, but my mouth felt like dry sand, my throat a parched wasteland. Connor gently offered me a small, cylindrical container, its metallic surface cool against my trembling fingers. "Drink this slowly," he instructed, his voice soft, reassuring. The cool liquid, a strange, unfamiliar concoction, soothed my parched throat, easing the burning dryness. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I managed a raspy whisper. Where am I? What happened?" Connor patiently explained the events, his words painting a vivid picture of the desperate battle, the overwhelming odds, the daring rescue operation. He spoke of the distress call, the rapid response of the Athena, the fierce fighting that had repelled the Krill, the desperate search and rescue operation that had salvaged a handful of survivors from the wreckage of the outpost. "I'm afraid there were few survivors," he said, his voice laced with a quiet sorrow, a genuine empathy that resonated deeply within my soul. "But we managed to rescue you and a handful of others before eliminating those bugs." Survivors? The word hung in the air, a stark reminder of the terrible losses I had suffered, the brutal deaths of my friends and comrades. And yet, here I was, alive, miraculously spared from the carnage, rescued from the jaws of death. Saved by these beings, these humans. The ensuing weeks were a protracted journey of physical and emotional rehabilitation, a gradual, painstaking return to both consciousness and functionality. I remained in the med bay, cocooned in the reassuring hum of advanced medical technology, the constant presence of Connor a silent, unwavering anchor amidst the turbulent storm of my emotions. Human doctors, their skills and knowledge far beyond anything I had ever encountered, tended to my wounds with a dedication that bordered on reverence. They spoke of dermal regenerators, cellular enhancers, nanosutures, technologies that had previously resided only in the realm of science fiction, futuristic marvels beyond the wildest imaginings of my people. For the Deloni, an injury like mine would have been a death sentence, or at the very least, a permanent and debilitating disability. But these humans, these extraordinary humans, spoke of having me combat-ready again within a matter of weeks. During my convalescence, I gradually learned more about my rescuers, about the ship that had become my unlikely haven, my sanctuary from the horrors of Pyros 5. The Athena was a vessel of the United Terran Shipyards, a member of the PEK, the Planetary Expeditionary Corps, a humanitarian armada operating under the auspices of the Galactic Concordance. Its crew was predominantly human, a relatively young species on the grand stage of galactic civilization, yet one that was already earning a formidable reputation for their advanced technology, unwavering courage, and their almost baffling tendency to extend a helping hand to those in desperate need, even at considerable personal risk. It was Lieutenant Connor Jensen, however, who became my most steadfast companion during my recovery. He visited me daily, sometimes bringing food, always meticulously checking for compatibility with Deloni physiology, patiently explaining the complexities of human culture, sharing stories of his own experiences. Other times, he would simply sit with me, listening intently to my fragmented, often disjointed attempts to recount my experiences, my struggles, my hopes and fears. I learned that, like me, Connor was a soldier, a member of the Concordance Marines, yet his accounts of his missions were far more nuanced than the simple narratives of victory and defeat that I was accustomed to hearing from Deloni officers. His stories were a complex tapestry woven with both pride and profound sorrow, the triumphs of lives saved interwoven with the poignant lament for those they had failed to reach in time, the bittersweet victories tempered by the haunting weight of countless losses. He carried these losses with him, a burden he seemed unable, or perhaps unwilling, to shed. It was during one of these conversations that I finally voiced the question that had been simmering beneath the surface of my thoughts. "Why do you do it?" I asked him, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why throw yourselves into the line of fire for others, for aliens you've never even met? Surely not for glory or riches." Connor pondered the question for a long moment, his gaze distant, lost in thought. Finally, he spoke, his voice low and thoughtful, carrying a weight of experience that resonated far beyond the words themselves. "I suppose it's just who we are, humans," he said, his tone tinged with a gentle weariness. "We learned long ago on Earth, after much pain and loss, that we're all in this together. That we're stronger when we stand united. Out here, in the black, we're all each other has got. There's too much darkness, too much cruelty in the universe. We have to be the light, even if it sometimes burns us. We have to try." His words resonated deeply within me, a stark contrast to the pragmatic, often ruthless ethos of my own people. To risk your life for a stranger, for an alien, was, in Deloni society, considered not only madness, but a profound weakness. Yet, I wouldn't be here, alive and breathing, if not for that very weakness. The actions of these humans, their selfless dedication, their unwavering commitment to alleviating suffering, regardless of species or circumstance, challenged every deeply ingrained belief I held about the nature of survival, the nature of duty, the nature of compassion. As the weeks bled into months, my physical wounds healed, leaving behind only faint, fading scars. But the emotional scars remained, a constant reminder of the horrors I had witnessed on Pyros 5, a constant companion to the overwhelming gratitude I felt towards my rescuers. Connor, however, remained a constant source of comfort and support, a steady, unwavering presence in my life. He showed me around the massive ship, the hydroponic gardens where they cultivated fresh produce, the observation deck with its breathtaking, panoramic view of the star-dusted expanse, the training rooms where crew members sparred and drilled, their movements a testament to their discipline and precision. I marveled at the easy camaraderie between the humans, the laughter and casual touches, so different from the rigid formality and emotional detachment that had characterized my interactions with Deloni military units. I met other members of the Concordance aboard the Athena, a towering Velian engineer, an Arisan navigator with shimmering silver eyes, a pair of Orosian medics, all treated with equal respect and fellowship by the human crew, despite our obvious differences, united in a shared commitment to a common cause. Yet, a nagging doubt persisted. What was my purpose now? My squad was gone, my posting irrevocably destroyed. Once I was fully recovered, where would I go? What would I do? Could I truly return to Kez, to once again take up arms for a government mired in endless conflict, a society that seemed to value strength above all else, a society that appeared to care little for the weak or the broken? I shared these doubts with Connor one evening as we sat together in the ship's hydroponic gardens, the scent of alien flowers perfuming the recycled air. "I feel lost," I confessed, staring down at my hands, still bearing the faint, fading scars from the krill attack. "Directionless. You saved me, healed me, showed me kindness I still don't fully comprehend. How can I repay that? How do I move forward?" Connor was silent for a long moment, his gaze distant, thoughtful. Finally, he took my hand in his, the warmth of his skin a comforting contrast to the chill of space. "You know," he said softly, his voice filled with a quiet conviction that resonated deep within my soul, there are still hundreds down on Pyro's 5 suffering from the aftermath of the Krill attack. Many wounded, many more displaced, resources decimated. They could use our help. I looked up at him, surprised. You're going back there, even after the attack? He nodded, his resolve unwavering. The Athena may be a warship, but her primary mission has always been humanitarian. We go where we're needed. And in this case, he squeezed my hand gently, I think you're needed, too. The subsequent months were a blur of relentless activity, a cycle of work and recovery, of tending to the wounded, comforting the grieving, rebuilding what the Krill had mercilessly destroyed. I worked alongside Connor and the other members of the away team, a diverse group united by a shared compassion and a relentless determination. The work was grueling, emotionally and physically draining, yet there was a strange sense of purpose, a feeling of profound belonging that I had never known before. We moved through the ravaged landscape of Pyro's 5, providing medical aid, distributing supplies, offering words of comfort and hope. We coordinated the distribution of food and supplies from the Athena's vast cargo hold, ensuring that the rations were familiar and palatable to Deloni tastes. Everywhere we went, I witnessed the initial distrust and resentment of my people slowly melt away, replaced by tentative gratitude, even a sense of awe, as they observed the tireless dedication of Connor and his fellow humans, expecting no payment, no praise, no recognition for their selfless actions. It was a transformative experience, a profound realization that compassion and unity could be strengths in their own right. It wasn't always easy. There were moments of profound frustration, of overwhelming helplessness, in the face of so much suffering, so much irreversible loss. One dawn, after a sleepless night tending to a child with horrific burns, I found Connor on the outskirts of the temporary encampment, his head bowed, his shoulders slumped with exhaustion. "Hey," I said softly, coming to stand beside him. "You okay?" He glanced over at me, managing a weak, rueful smile. "Just thinking," he said, his voice barely a whisper, "wishing we could have gotten here sooner, that we could have done more." I nodded slowly, those same thoughts echoing in my own heart. The Deloni prided ourselves on our formidable defenses, yet our outpost had fallen so swiftly, so utterly. How many more might we have saved with the Terrans' advanced weaponry, their indomitable spirit? But wishes, I knew, changed nothing. "We're doing everything we can," I reminded him, my voice firm. "You taught me that. And look at what we've already accomplished here, in just a few short months. My people aren't quick to trust, but you've shown them a new way, a new hope where there was none before." Some of the tension visibly eased from Connor's shoulders as he absorbed my words. "I suppose you're right," he admitted, a faint smile playing on his lips. "I guess I just can't help but feel the weight of it all sometimes." He paused, then added, a hint of wistfulness in his tone, "Eliza would probably tell me I'm being too hard on myself again." "She sounds wise," I teased lightly. "You should listen to her more, brat." He retorted with a chuckle, bumping his shoulder against mine. The casual contact sent a pleasant shiver up my spine. These moments with Connor, the easy banter, the unspoken connection, felt more natural than anything I'd ever known, as natural as breathing. We lapsed into a comfortable silence for a while, watching Pyro's 5's twin moons creep towards the horizon, the hushed murmur of the waking camp a low hum behind us. Finally, Connor turned to face me fully, his expression unreadable. "What will you do when our work here is done?" he asked quietly. "Have you given any thought to that?" I hesitated, an icy tendril of uncertainty curling in my gut. In truth, I had been avoiding that very question. The Athena and her crew had become my home, a refuge from the brutal realities of interstellar war, a haven of compassion and understanding. Connor had become something more. "I'm not sure," I admitted, hating the small tremble in my voice. "Return to Kez, I suppose. Make my report to command." But the words felt hollow, inadequate, the thought of leaving now almost physically painful. Connor held my gaze, searching, unblinking. I thought he might reach for me, but he simply nodded, his gaze drawn to the horizon where the first sliver of sun was beginning to peek over the jagged, desolate peaks. "Well, you've more than proven yourself here," he said at last. "Proven your resilience, your adaptability, your capacity for compassion." He glanced at me sidelong, his gaze lingering for a moment, filled with a depth of understanding that transcended words. "The Athena could use someone like you. The Concordance could. If that's something you might want." I stared at him, my heart suddenly hammering against my ribs. Was he saying what I thought he was? Offering me a place among his crew, a chance to continue what we'd started, not just here, on this ravaged planet, but out there, in the vast, swirling expanse of the galaxy. I thought of my squad, my old life, what it had been, what it could never be again. Then I thought of the Athena, the profound sense of purpose and camaraderie I'd found there, the way Connor made me feel, challenged, valued, seen in a way I never had been before. Maybe this was more than just a posting, more than duty or obligation. Maybe this was the beginning of everything. I took a shaky breath and squared my shoulders, meeting Connor's gaze with a newfound resolve. "Yes," I said firmly. "I want that. I want to stay on the Athena. With you. With the crew." The grin that broke across Connor's face was breathtaking, transformative. I felt an answering smile tug at my own lips, giddy elation bubbling up from some secret well within me. This was right. This was where I belonged. "Well, all right then," Connor said, his voice warm with barely contained delight. "Let's make it official." He reached out, gently clasping my shoulder, the touch searing even through the layers of my uniform. "Welcome aboard, Ephira Zen, of the Galactic Concordance." The ensuing years were a whirlwind of activity, a relentless progression of challenges and triumphs, of shared experiences and deepening bonds. The grueling work, the constant danger, the emotional toll of witnessing so much suffering, none of it seemed to matter anymore. I had a future now, one I had forged for myself, one filled with purpose, promise, and a profound sense of belonging. We completed our mission on Pyros 5, the survivors now safe and provisioned for the long and arduous task of rebuilding their lives. I bid farewell to those I had come to know and care for, assuring them that the Athena would return, that they would not be forgotten. Upon returning to the ship, I was granted official quarters, and I embarked on an intensive program of training to fully integrate with the crew. Connor, unsurprisingly, took a central role in my education, patiently guiding me through the nuances of Terran customs and protocols, helping me to refine my translation implant, pushing me to my limits in rigorous combat exercises. When he learned of my scouting specialties, I warned him, panting and sweat-streaked after a particularly brutal sparring session, "Never go easy on me. I may be new to your ways, but I'm no fragile flower." Connor laughed, reaching down to haul me to my feet. "Noted," he said wryly. "I'll remember that next time you're cursing my name from the mats." As I found my place among the Athena's remarkably diverse crew, I marveled at the easy acceptance and respect I was shown, so different from the rigid hierarchy of Deloni units. Here, on this ship, I was valued not just for my skills, but for my unique perspective and experiences. The Velian engineer eagerly sought my input on modifying the ship's shielding to better withstand krill plasma blasts. Nara, the Erisan navigator, patiently explained the intricacies of void-fold calculations, fascinated by the Deloni methods I had learned. And in the med bay, I shared what I knew of Deloni physiology and field medicine with the Orosian doctors, learning their advanced techniques in return. It was a vibrant dance of cultures and ideas, a remarkable synergy that only enriched us all. And through it all, Connor remained my steadfast anchor, my guide, my most dedicated advocate, my friend, my something more. We fell into an effortless rhythm, working and training together, sharing meals in the galley, often ending our shifts stargazing on the observation deck, trading stories of our worlds, our families, our hopes, our dreams, our fears. Sometimes he spoke of his daughter, Eliza, and the wistful longing in his voice made my heart ache. I knew he missed her fiercely. "She would love you," he said one evening as we watched a vibrant nebula drift past the viewport. Eliza, she's fascinated by other species, always begging me for stories of our missions. He slanted me a smile. Meeting her very own Delone warrior would probably make her whole year. I ducked my head, warmth flooding my cheeks at the thought. I would be honored to meet her someday, I murmured. If you think she wouldn't mind a visit from her father's alien partner. The words hung in the air, daring and new, tentative yet profound. Connor's eyes widened a fraction. Partner, he echoed softly. Is that what we are? I swallowed hard, holding his gaze. Isn't it? Unless my feelings are one-sided. The mere thought made me want to curl in on myself, vulnerable and exposed. No, Connor breathed, catching my hand and pulling me closer. Not one-sided. Never that. His other hand came up to cup my cheek, his rough palm infinitely gentle. He rested his forehead against mine, the gesture achingly intimate, silent yet deeply communicative. Ephira, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. You have become essential to me. I didn't expect this, never thought I could feel this way again, but you make me want to try. My breath hitched, my pulse thundering in my ears. I reached up to brush my fingers wonderingly over the pale stubble along his jaw. Connor, I whispered, my voice barely audible. I want this too. Want you. Whatever comes. He made a rough sound, almost a growl, and then his lips were on mine, hot and insistent. I gasped into the kiss, my hands fisting in the front of his uniform as he hauled me flush against him. The taste of him was intoxicating, addictive, a perfect blend of strength and vulnerability. I lost myself to the heat of his mouth, the slide of his tongue against my own. Nothing had ever felt more right, more perfect, more inevitable. We lost track of time, wrapped up in each other, trading lazy kisses and murmured words of affection, the silence between us filled with an unspoken understanding that transcended words. It was only the insistent chirp of Connor's communicator that finally broke the spell, pulling us back to the harsh realities of our shared existence. Flushed and breathless, Connor answered, his voice still gravelly, his arm remaining firmly around my waist. Lieutenant Jensen, came Captain Howell's clipped tones. We've just received a distress call from a civilian transport near the Kthar Nebula. Possible Krill Raider activity. I need you to assemble a tactical team for intercept and potential rescue ops. Connor and I locked eyes, adrenaline already humming through our veins, a familiar spark igniting between us. Understood, Captain, he replied. Ephira Zen and I will be in the hangar in 10. Jensen out. As we hurried to gather our gear, I couldn't help the fierce grin stretching my face. This was who we were, Connor and I, guardians, protectors, partners, lovers, no matter the danger, no matter the odds. We would be the light in the darkness, the hope for the hopeless. Together. Always. For as long as the stars burned bright. And I knew, with a bone-deep certainty, that I had finally found my true path, my purpose, with this crew, with this remarkable human by my side. I was home. And, finally, I was truly, irrevocably, and completely happy.